Hi friends, how's it going? Happy Thursday. I'm so looking forward to this Facebook Live and hearing all about how your journey is going so far with the forgiveness audio. This is really just a chance for us to connect. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear how the experience has been for you. If I know that sometimes forgiving someone can be emotional. Sometimes it can be frustrating. You can feel like you're not quite ready. And so what we're going to actually do today is I'm going to walk you through an exercise called the Love Bomb. And the Love Bomb is basically the Emily Fletcher equivalent of what you would call a meta meditation or a loving kindness meditation. And I think that this is a nice way for us to sort of prime the pump. And even if you're not quite ready to forgive someone, then doing this Love Bomb is a great way to even be open to the possibility of it. But I want to welcome all of you who have joined the Ziva tribe. We just launched this less than a week ago, or just over a week ago, and we already have over 2,100 people in our Ziva tribe. So thank you so much for joining. Our goal is to get to 5,000 people by the end of the year. So at the end of this, you can share it if you want to. You can invite your friends to join the tribe. And this is for meditators. This is for meditation curious people. It's really just anyone that wants to learn about meditation, deepen their practice, and practice tools to really help you perform at the top of your game. And for those of you who have not yet joined the Ziva tribe, all you do is just search Ziva tribe on Facebook and request, and then we will let you join. We'll approve you. And by the way, right now we're on our Facebook Live page, and I'm going to be taking Q&A at the end of this inside of our tribe. So, what else do I want to share with you? I have some notes. I'm going to check them right now. Oh, so this is really important. If you haven't yet, I want you to go ahead and download The Power of Forgiveness. This is our guided audio, and this whole 4-week series on forgiveness that we're doing is basically based on this 15-minute audio called The Power of Forgiveness. And if you want to get that, you can get that at bit.ly/Ziva-forgiveness. So bit.ly, bit.ly/Ziva-forgiveness. And we'll post that in the comments. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I would highly recommend that you download that, listen to it, and then you could even watch the rest of this live stream then. Okay, so I'm gonna actually tell you the story of how this forgiveness audio came to be. But before I do that, if you're here, just say a quick hello. Hi, Christine, I see you from Hamilton, Canada. And hi, Kate, I see you. I know that you are in LA, and you're asking what kinds of things are appropriate to post in Ziva Tribe. So I know that you've done a lot of courses with us. You've done our Ziva Live course, you've done our Moving into Mastery series. And so I would say if they're in-depth meditation questions or questions about moving into mastery, I would keep those in Ziva Family. But Ziva Tribe would be a great place to post things about your experience. Hi Donna, hi Maria, hi Robin, hi Bennett from Houston. Hey Bennett, I hope that your house is okay from the flooding and that you're not dealing with any mold. But thanks so much for saying hi. It's nice to see you guys. And Jim, what's up? Pittsburgh in the house. Okay, so I want to share with you. Hi Marisol, nice to see you. Okay, oh, good to go. Bennett's house is okay. And Helena is saying hello from Portland. And Kathy, she's saying she loved the forgiveness audio. Thank you so much, Kathy. I love you very much. And Erin is saying hello from LA. Betty is excited to learn about forgiveness. Betty, what are you excited to learn about? I want to hear what's feeling intriguing to you, what you're curious about. And in the meantime, oh, wait, Adriana is saying the forgiveness audio is so beautiful. Thank you. I'm really glad you're enjoying it. Okay, so I'm going to share this story with you. So I was maybe 24 or 25 years old, and I was in New York. I was performing on Broadway, and one of my dear friends, his name was David Reeser. His name still is David Reeser. And he and I grew up together. We did shows together since we were little kids. And we used to call him Jew Jackman because he's like the Jewish Hugh Jackman. He's like a real song and dance man, super charismatic, super kind, super handsome. And he was a very good friend of mine. And he used to host these traveling Shabbats, which was basically just a potluck. And we didn't really travel. I don't know why we called it Traveling Shabbat, but we did. And anyway, we'd host a potluck, and we would host, and we would just come together to share on a certain theme. And the first one that we did was around Yom Kippur. And so we did this Traveling Shabbat with the theme of forgiveness. And so everyone was instructed to bring some sort of a dish and then also something to share on the theme of forgiveness. You could bring a song, a YouTube video, a poem, a painting, really anything that spoke to you. And I decided to do this guided visualization on forgiveness. And there was only about 7 of us in the room, and I had never meditated before. I had never taken a meditation class. I didn't know anything about anything, really. I mean, I knew a thing about singing and dancing. But anyway, I decided to walk my friends through this forgiveness audio. Now, cut to about 5 years later, I'm sitting in my therapist's office, and he looks at me and he says, "Are you Jewish?" And I was like, "No, why?" And he said, "What were you doing at a Shabbat?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "One of my clients came to me and said that you walked them through this exercise at a Shabbat and it changed their life." And I was so confused, I barely even remember doing it. And he said, "See, I told you were an effing healer." And so this exercise has a special place in my heart because it's the very first time I ever really led anyone through any guided sort of anything. And so it's really helped me a lot to forgive certain people, to forgive myself for sure, which is oftentimes more challenging than anything else. And so I feel really excited about this month of exploring this together. And the thing that inspired me to want to do this month of forgiveness exploration is that I feel like emotions are very high right now. Tensions are very high. According to the American Psychological Institute, over 2/3 of Americans feel like the country is at its lowest point in history. And while you can't argue with someone's perception, that's just really surveying how they feel. I do want to remind you guys that statistically, we're actually living in the most peaceful time in recorded history. And that goes as far as like wars and murders per capita on the planet Earth. And so even though I know that it's overwhelming and the news can be so frustrating and so upsetting, from everything from the Me Too campaign and sexual abuse, sexual assault, different political leaders, doing racist things, and it just seems like it's a lot right now. And part of that is happening because we're so connected. Part of that is happening is because we're always on our phones, we're getting real-time news, and I don't think that it is, it's not whether or not I think, but it is not natural for the human brain to have access to every single piece of news that's happening on the planet Earth at one time. Right? Like even a few hundred years ago, the most people you would have in your sphere would be a few hundred. And so any sort of trauma or death or tragedy or murder or stealing, if that was to happen, while it would be probably equally as intense, you'd be dealing with how many murders, how many rapes, how much sexual abuse, how much stealing within a circle of 200 people. And right now, we've got access to the entire global population's trauma, which is 7.4 billion. And so I just want to give you permission to take a minute for yourself. If you need to take a pause from the news, if you need to, sort of take like a mental detox for your brain, please do. Okay, so there's that. And if you have, I'm curious to know, who has actually downloaded and listened to that audio yet? If you have, maybe just give us a thumbs up or just say yes in the comments, and then I can kind of know how to cater the conversation. Are we talking to people who've listened to it yet or people who have not yet? Either way is fine. It's just will be helpful for me to know who's doing what. And in the meantime, I'll share some feedback that we had on the audio, which I really loved. So someone wrote in and she said, and this is Marcella actually, she said, "I joined the forgiveness series and wow, powerful stuff. Thank you for making it right on time. I understand the idea of forgiving for some of us is hard, possibly. Wondering for those of you who heard the audio already, have any thoughts that you're willing to share with us about how you felt afterwards? I can start off. When I started the visualization, I chose one person and it switched once I was in the groove. I was so surprised and extremely emotional. It was a catharsis, and I was actually able to feel compassion, which I'm still in shock about. So thank you for sharing that, Marcella. And then someone wrote back and she said, "I hear you. What propels me forward with this whole practice is the idea of having more energy back so I can use it for other ideas and plans. Also the idea of being free from how it's draining and holding on to the resentment." And so this is a big point that I want to make, and that is that we forgive people, not necessarily for them, but for ourselves, right? We forgive someone to take our energy back, to take our power back from a situation, because here's the reality. You holding on to hatred and anger for someone else isn't hurting them at all. It's only hurting you. What's that quote? I'm going to mess this up, but the quote is something like, you know, holding on to hate and anger is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. And quite literally, when we're holding on to those negative emotions, it is very much poisoning our bodies and poisoning our brains. It creates adrenaline and cortisol, which are acidic in nature. And then the more acid we have in our bodies, the easier it is to break down a whole host of health options. Meaning that when our bodies are acidic, our skin elasticity decreases, our brain elasticity decreases. We can develop IBS because we've got so much acid in our in our digestion, and it doesn't make for a fun life. I've also been watching a few videos on forgiveness recently, and I saw this beautiful one that Kathy, you actually posted, so thank you for posting that. And it was a man whose son had been murdered. His son had been murdered by stabbing, and the man who stabbed him to death was on drugs when he did it. And there's a video actually from the courtroom, and they're sentencing the man who had murdered this gentleman's son. And when he is up on the stand, he basically uses his time to say that he forgives him. He says, you know, I forgive you, and I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the thing that made you murder my son. I forgive you, and for me, forgiveness is it's a beautiful gift, and I'm choosing to give you this gift. And he said, I wish I could actually get up and hug you right now. And it was really quite moving. So anyway, and then finally, once he got off of the stand, the person who had murdered his son stands up, and they shake hands, and then they hug. And it was like a teenage boy, the person who had murdered his son, and he just breaks down crying, and they just hold each other in this embrace for so long. And then another gentleman came over and joined the hug, and then I think it was a woman who was the murderer's mother comes over, and she's sobbing, crying, and they just get into this beautiful giant group hug. And it might sound cliche, but it's one of the most beautiful things I've seen, because if ever there's a time to feel justified and self-righteous in your anger, it's if someone murders your child. I mean, I cannot imagine the level of rage and anger and sadness and loss that would happen in that instance. And to have the power to choose to forgive someone and then to watch the immediate ripple effect that happened as a byproduct of that is really quite beautiful. So I'll find that link and I'll post it. And Kathy, if you have it, if you want to share it, that would be great. I've also seen a few other examples of forgiveness where it just like really touched my heart, and I'll talk about those in some videos to come, in the series to come. Okay, do you guys have any questions or feedback before we dive into the love bomb? Anything you want me to cover or any feedback you have before I dive into the love bomb? We have some questions. Oh, okay, so someone asked, how do you know when you've truly forgiven someone? This is a good question. Are there feelings or signs? You know, I think a lot of times we assume that forgiveness takes time, but I actually think that forgiveness can happen in an instant. I think that if it's someone that you are choosing to keep in your life, then the question is, do I feel like they're going to do this again? And if not, and if they've asked for forgiveness, and if I'm choosing to give it to them, then I feel like that can happen, that reparation can happen instantly. And I think you know that you've forgiven them if it's not hot to the touch anymore, if it feels like a scar but not a wound. You know how if you cut yourself and after a while it heals and there's a scar there, it doesn't erase the fact that it happened, but it's not infected, it doesn't hurt to touch it anymore. And that to me is what forgiveness is doing. It's allowing us to keep those events, they shape us, they impact who we are, but they're not hot to the touch anymore, they're not costing us anymore, and we don't have to protect ourselves from the event anymore. Ooh, someone's asking if you can forgive someone who has passed away. 1,000% yes, at least in my experience. And I actually have a video about this I think it's in our Ziva Vault. And if you haven't checked out our Ziva Vault yet, it's just zivameditation.com/Ziva Vault. And there's hundreds of videos in there, hundreds of podcasts and articles. But there's one video called 4 Surprising Lessons that I learned from my dad. And my dad actually passed away when I was 24. And I felt like I was able to move through a lot of things and do a lot of forgiveness work even when he wasn't in his body, and strangely for me it actually felt easier somehow, that I could move through things energetically faster even after he had passed. And so I highly encourage you to use this exercise on someone who has passed if you feel like there's undone work there or things that need to be said. So Helena is saying, I love your perspective on the state of our world today. Sharing the love will surpass everything. And I sure hope you're right, Helena. And I love that Martin Luther King quote. It says, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hatred cannot drive out hatred, only love can do that. And so that's how we're going to do the love bomb today. So take a few more questions and then we'll dive into the love bomb.
Forgiveness audio, should it happen before a meditation practice if you have one? When should you be listening to it?
So someone's asking, if you have a meditation practice and you downloaded the forgiveness audio, should we do that before or after? And I highly recommend any form of guided visualization, which the forgiveness audio is. I recommend doing that after your meditation, and especially something as challenging as forgiveness, I would do after you meditate. Because before you meditate, chances are your adaptation energy is low and you might be a little bit more irritable. And so after you meditate, you're filled up with bliss and fulfillment and adaptation energy. And I find that it's much easier to forgive someone from that place of connectedness and expansiveness. And so, I would meditate first and then move into that audio. Yeah, good question. Okay, so let's dive into the love bomb, and then I'll take more questions over in the Ziva tribe. So if you haven't already, go ahead and have a seat with your back supported and your head free. And I would recommend turning off your phone, closing down any other windows on your computer so you can really be present for this exercise. And we'll go for maybe 10-15 minutes. So if you have that time, beautiful. And as you settle down, just closing the eyes and taking a big, delicious inhale through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Really good. Big, delicious inhale through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. And letting this be the biggest inhale you've taken all day. Filling your lungs. When you get to the top of the inhale, take one more sip of air. Floating there for just a moment, noticing that space between at the top, and then just exhaling, letting all that air fall out of your lungs. And as you exhale, softening the brow, your jaw, your lips, your eyes. And then taking a nice gentle inhale this time. And as you exhale, softening your neck, softening your shoulders, your chest, your belly, your hips, your bum, your thighs, your calves and your feet. Just really giving yourself permission to surrender into this experience, into this exercise, giving yourself permission to be fully present right here, right now. And you can let your breathing be easy and gentle. And to start, I invite you to imagine someone that you love very much. So I would recommend using someone different than who you used on the forgiveness audio, but someone that really just fills your heart with joy and love. And if you can't think of a human being that does that, perhaps think about your dog or your cat or even your favorite food dish. But ideally, it's a human. Your best friend, your partner, a parent. But I invite you to imagine them sitting about 2 to 3 feet in front of you, facing you. Just look right into each other's eyes, waking up your imagination like you're a little kid playing pretend. Just imagine this person who you love so much seated right across from you. And as you look into their eyes, notice them looking right back into your eyes. What does their face look like? What does their hair look like? What are they wearing? And as you look into their eyes, just notice how it feels to receive all of that energy from them. As they look back at you, how does it feel to be seen by someone that you love so much? And taking a nice inhale. And as you exhale, what if you imagine looking right into their eyes and just saying, I love you? It might feel a little nervous, it might feel a little intimate, and that's okay. But now I want you to imagine that they look right back into your eyes and they say the same thing. I love you. And as you inhale, just receive that. Allow their love to supercharge every single cell in your body, charging your body and your cells with the frequency of love, starting to flood your own brain and body with oxytocin, which is a love chemical. And on your next inhale, I want you to breathe in that frequency, supercharging every single cell in your body with the vibration of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending that to the person seated across from you, so that you're charging them up with the frequency of love. And some people even like to imagine this as a light, that you're just blasting them with light. Or perhaps it's just the feeling of love radiating out from your heart. And imagine that they can actually feel it. Imagine that it allows their heart to expand. Perhaps it brings a smile to their face. And as they start to feel better, they're able to send you even more love. And as you inhale, breathing that sensation in. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine sending that feeling of love out into the entire room that you're in. So blasting the whole room that you're in right now, blasting it with love. Letting that light or that energy shoot right out through the palms of your hands, through the top of your head, the bottoms of your feet, and definitely right out through your heart. And you could imagine this as light or as waves or as your favorite color. There's no wrong way to do this. And again, coming back to this person who you love, looking right into their eyes, imagine them sending you so much love. And as you inhale, supercharging your own body with the frequency of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending that out and filling the entire building that you're in with love. And all the people and things inside of your building, they're getting blasted with love too. Really good. And on your next inhale, breathing in that frequency, breathing in that current and energy of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending that out to your whole town. The town of Pittsburgh, the town of New York, the town of Los Angeles. Just blasting your whole city with love. And all the people, places, and things inside of that city, your coworkers, your boss, your siblings, your pets, your friends, your enemies, just blasting them all with love. Really good. And coming back to this person's eyes, this person who you love so much, who you've shared so much laughter with, and breathing in that frequency of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending it out to your whole country. From one border to the next. If you're in America, it's the red states and the blue states. Just blasting your whole country with the vibration and the frequency of love. And again, you could imagine it like a blanket of light, like a color, or like a wave of energy. And imagining just for a moment that maybe someone on a street, somewhere in your country, who's having a bad day is actually able to feel it. What if someone feels alone or sad or overwhelmed, and just for a moment they get a hit of love. They get a hit of knowing that they're not alone, and that someone somewhere actually loves them. And just imagining the possibility of that changing the course of the rest of their entire day. Maybe it brings a little smile to their face for no known reason, and then someone smiles back at them. Really good. And coming back to this person who you love right across from you, looking right into their eyes. And as you inhale, breathing in the frequency of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending that out to the entire planet Earth. Every country, every continent, all the oceans. Just wrapping our entire globe with the frequency and the current of love. Reminding ourselves that there really is only one race, the human one. And that we really are all in this together. And when we pull the lens this far back, it's much easier to see unity. It's much easier to see how similar we all are. So blasting all the people, all the places, all the things on the entire planet with the frequency of love. Imagining that as a color or as a light or as a wave going around the globe. Really good. And inhaling this frequency, this current of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending that out to the entire solar system. All the planets, and even the sun. Letting yourself feel that expansive, that connected. From that space of expansiveness, come back to your friend's eyes, to this person who you love, right into their eyes. Tell them that you love them. See them say the same thing back to you. I love you. And give yourself permission to receive that. And breathing in that frequency of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending that out to the entire universe. Beyond the solar system, beyond the galaxy, beyond the clusters of galaxies, and out into the entirety of all that is. Just blasting the entire universe with the frequency of love. And reminding yourself that you actually are a part of the universe, and the universe is a part of you. Universe, one song. According to the Vedas, there's only one thing, and we are all it. So just for a moment, giving yourself permission to surrender into the totality, to the expansiveness, to the collective intelligence. And know that as you send this frequency of love out into the universe, it is simultaneously coming back to you. Because there is only one thing and we're all it. And so as you up-level yourself, you help to up-level the collective. And so taking a moment to receive, taking a moment to just feel all of that energy and all of that love that's coming back to you, not only from the universe itself, but also from all the other people who are watching this live stream right now. From every single person who's doing this love bomb with you, know that they're blasting you with love and you're blasting them with love, and that can create a beautiful upward spiral. So it's like you're tuning your antenna, tuning your receptors to receive all the love that the universe has for you. And breathing that in, allowing that reciprocity to really soothe and energize and relax every single cell in your brain, your heart, your digestion, your skin, your eyes, your lungs. Breathing that into every single part of your body. And then you can again imagine it like light, perhaps flooding your whole body with light from the top of your head all the way to the bottoms of your feet. And with each inhale, it gets stronger, it gets brighter. And for a moment, we can undulate in between the body and the universe. Imagining that our bodies are like individual waves on the ocean of consciousness that is the universe. And just for a moment, giving yourself permission to undulate like a wave, going into its individual wave and then relaxing into the totality of the ocean. And similarly, we can feel that energy charging every single cell in our body and then sending it out to the entire universe, taking the lens of our awareness out as far as the imagination can conceive. So left brain and right brain, individuality and totality dancing with each other. Really good. And from this space of love and connectedness and expanded awareness, we can start to bring our awareness into the room, into the body, into the right now. And coming back to this person's eyes, this person seated right across from you. Just look at their face and notice how their face looks now. Do they seem happier? Do they seem more vulnerable? Do they seem more connected to you? And how does your heart feel? Does your heart feel a little softer, a little bigger, a little less guarded? And taking a moment to thank this person for charging you up, for helping you to tap into the source of love that lives inside of you, and just say thank you. And taking a big, delicious, energizing inhale. And as you exhale, just letting go. Letting go of anything you want to surrender. Really good. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, we could start to slowly, gently open the eyes. Hi. That was fun. So I'll give you guys a moment to let the language center of your brain wake back up, come back into your brain, into your body. Take some water here. And I'd like to hear what that was like for you. Did that make it any easier to move into the forgiveness exercise? But what did that feel like for you guys? I noticed that our comments really stopped, which was good. That means everyone was doing it. So if you did it feel challenging? Did you know who to sit across from? How did you feel when you sort of sent your energy out into the collective? Here we go. I just want to hear some feedback. Here we go, here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I'll tell you what it was like for me. Sometimes it's hard for me to pick a specific person. Sandra's saying it was euphoric. That's nice. Bennett is saying relaxing. Feels like I'm ready for a nap now. And Bennett, you get gold stars in my book anytime you can take a nap. But for me, sometimes it's hard to pick one person that I love. And so to be quite honest, sometimes I use my dog just because I love my dog so much. And I think that he just embodies pure love and presence. And there's so many people that I love. It's just hard to pick one sometimes. And Sixta is saying it was a wonderful feeling. And Kirsten's saying that the person changed a few times. That's okay. I feel like if things are happening innocently and spontaneously and the person changes, that's all okay. And Mary's saying it was so relaxing. I felt like I fell asleep. So Mary, that's cool actually, because there's no way you actually fell asleep during that short little thing. But oftentimes people, when they're meditating, they'll feel like they're falling into sleep. And so we're going to cover this in much more detail in our online training that's coming in February. But for the meantime, just know that if it feels like you're falling into a little bit of a sleep, that's all A-okay. And Helena's saying emotionally charged in a loving way. Oh, good. I love that. Good. Okay, so we're going to move. So for my folks on our Ziva Meditation public page, we're going to move our Q&A over to the Ziva Tribe. So if you haven't joined the Ziva Tribe yet, you can simply search Ziva Tribe and request access, and we'll approve you just as fast as we can. But we're going to do our Q&A over there, mostly because I'm trying to bribe you to come join our Ziva Tribe. Do you like that? All right, so I will see you guys next time. We have a live stream happening next Thursday at 2. And that one is going to be all about how to forgive yourself. So I'm excited about that. All right, friends, thanks. Okay, so Kelly is saying, my favorite part was the undulating. Oh, here we go. Was undulating between the individual wave and the ocean. Girl, me too. I feel like it's just like we're dancing, left brain, right brain, individuality and totality. So that's my favorite part as well. And Betty's saying, my heart softened. I usually use my children because they're always so happy and full of love. That works for me. And my daughter told me she loved me this morning when I made her favorite lunch. Oh, so sweet. Kids are adorable. I actually had a doctor's appointment this morning, and there was 3 or 4 little kids in the waiting room, and they were just asking the sweetest questions, and they were so curious, and they're just little comedians and artists. It's fun to watch them. Okay, so thank you so much for your feedback on that exercise. It's really helpful, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. But now I'd love to hear, those of you who have done the forgiveness audio, I'd like to hear what it was like for you. Was it challenging? Did it bring emotions up? And if it did, what flavor emotions? I just want to know all the things, or basically how can I help you? If there's other things going on in your meditation that you want to talk about, that's great, but I'd like to keep it pretty forgiveness focused if we can. So if you have questions about that, feel free to post them. And in the meantime, I'm going to share a quote with you. 1 second. Oh, okay, so this quote is from Marianne Williamson, and she says, the practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to the healing of the world. I'm going to say that again. The practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to the healing of the world. And I think that this is not an over-exaggeration. I think that if we're all walking around holding on to every single transgression and every single time that we were wronged or hurt, this is not a recipe for a peaceful, joyous, unified planet. I think that that is a recipe for a lot of segregation and a lot of war and a lot of unnecessary suffering. And P.S., one of my new missions, because my mission when I started Ziva was to make meditation attractive and accessible and to really rebrand meditation as a productivity tool. And I feel like that's happened. I feel like people understand now that meditation helps you to be more productive and helps you at your job. So my new mission, and I'm clarifying the language, maybe you guys can help me with this, but it's basically to eradicate unnecessary suffering from the planet. Now there is some suffering that I think is necessary. If someone dies or if you're in pain or sick, like there's suffering and that's okay. That's a part of the human experience. But so much of the suffering that I see these days is unnecessary. It's being caused by imaginary borders, imaginary segregation, or simply not eating and acting in accordance with nature, so we create disease and imbalance in our bodies. And it's quite, it's simultaneously frustrating because I want to help, and it is inspiring and empowering because I want to help. So it's strengthening the mission, but anytime you see someone in pain, it causes you pain. And so my new mission is to help eradicate unnecessary suffering from the planet. So talk to me, those of you who have done that forgiveness exercise, what was it like for you? What questions came up? Or are there other things that I can help you with your practice? I am here to serve. Oh, okay. Oh, someone says, I picked the love of my life who passed away a few months ago, and it was like she came back to life. Oh, man. I am so sorry, Fred. I'm so sorry for your loss. And thank you for sharing that. And I love that you felt like she came back to life. And I really believe that when we access different states of consciousness, which we do in meditation, we're able to access different times. And there are states of consciousness where the past, present, and future are happening all simultaneously. And so every memory that you have of her, every experience that you guys have shared together is on some level, on some state of consciousness happening now. And so I hope that that was an enjoyable way to reconnect with her, and also know that I feel like when someone's not in their body anymore, you can access their energy anytime, any place, because they're not bound by their body. So you can tap into them anytime.
Having a hard time forgiving themselves because somebody can't forgive them.
Okay, so someone wrote in and said, I'm having a hard time forgiving myself because someone can't forgive me. Ooh, this is big and this is advanced. And I get that. I get that. If you feel like you've done something wrong and you've asked for forgiveness and the person isn't ready yet or doesn't have the tools yet to forgive you, I think that it is so much more challenging to forgive yourself. But there's a fine line between taking accountability and taking responsibility for what you've done and suffering or punishing yourself. And I'm not sure that suffering and punishing yourself is doing any favors for anyone, and it's not even helping the person that you wronged, right? Like, you made a mistake, perhaps intentional or not intentional, but you continuing to hold on to this anger to yourself, you continuing to beat yourself up about it, isn't really doing anybody any favors. It's actually robbing them of getting to experience all of you. And again, I think we forgive for ourselves, not for someone else. And so I would recommend listening to that audio a few times and just use yourself. See yourself at the moment that the transgression happened, before it happened, after it happened, and do it a few times. Like, as much as I would love to say this one 15-minute audio is going to help you forgive someone forever, for most of us, the stuff is deeper than that, and it's going to take a few times. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm.
What do you imagine if someone's passed away and you're imagining them in the present during the forgiveness audio? What should you imagine?
Oh, okay. Here's a good question. Someone says, if I'm forgiving someone who's passed away, and there's a moment where I have you picture the person at different ages, and one of them is in the present moment. And so I would recommend, if they've passed away, you would just see them sitting across from you at the age that you remember them most clearly. So probably like at the age that they passed away, or the age that you spent the most time with them. Or even if you were to imagine them visiting you, like even like an angel or as a presence or as an energy, like whatever feels most relevant in the right now. Good. Okay, so Betty's saying, when you begin to forgive those who hurt you in the past, is it easier and or quicker to forgive those in the present and the future? When you begin to forgive those who hurt you in the past, is it easier and quicker to forgive those in the present and the future? Okay, interesting question. I mean, I'd have to do some experimentation on this to give you like a hard yes or no, but my big hypothesis is yes. I think that forgiveness is like any other muscle. You know, if you practice the muscle of compassion, or if you practice the muscle of math, or the muscle of present moment awareness, I think that it gets easier and easier each time you do it. And I think that forgiveness is sort of like stress, meaning that if you have a bunch of people that you need to forgive, a bunch of transgressions, a bunch of feeling like you've been wronged or you've been the victim, and you just let those pile up and pile up and pile up, then if someone hurts you in the present moment, then you're going to take out on them not only what they hurt you for, but also the 20, 30 years that you've been carrying with you. You know, so like one guy breaks up with you, and instead of you just getting mad at him for breaking up with you, he has to now deal with the wrath of every man who's ever broken up with you. And that's not fair. It's not fair to do to one person, to take out your whole lifetime of stress on them. And so I really think that as we start to unpile this backlog that we have, it's much easier to deal with each moment just exactly for what it is. So if someone cuts you off in traffic, you're mildly annoyed for 2 seconds and then you move on, but you're not taking out all your daddy issues on this person who cut you off in traffic, because you've done the hard work of forgiving the people that you need to forgive. So I hope that helps. That's a really good question. Melody's saying, I see forgiveness as a big part of letting go of the past and to live in the present moment. Yes, me too. And in the forgiveness audio, if you haven't downloaded it yet, there's a quote on there that says, forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it sure does change the future. And that was really my big impetus, my big inspiration for creating this series. It's not that you can change the past. We can't get rid of this stuff. The movie's been shot. But what we do with this forgiveness exercise is that we get to go into post-production and we get to edit everything. We get to change the soundtrack. We get to change the filter. We get to change the color tone. And so, I mean, if you've ever watched a scary movie without scary music, it's not scary. You could literally watch someone walking across a thing with a knife, or like a clown, like stabbing someone. And if it's like happy music playing underneath it, it's literally not scary. And so the movie has been shot, right? The plot is set. So we can't change that. We can't change the past. But what we can change is our perception of the past. And that's where this exercise becomes so powerful. That's allowing us to change the soundtrack, the filter, what we're editing in and out, what we're highlighting, where the focus is. And that can change, that can make a totally different movie. Okay, so Joffrey said, I aim to forgive myself, but since you mentioned it, it could be a public figure. This public person I don't want to even think about kept popping up, so I guess maybe I need to try forgiving him. But I see more. Feel like I have to do it. Jeffrey, I hear you. It's tough. It's tough to forgive people we don't want to think about. It'd be so much easier to just like push it aside and shove it down. But then we end up taking that out on someone else, on our taxi driver or on our dog or on the person who cuts us off in traffic. So even though it's tough, I think it's really worth it. So I'll be joining you on that. Okay, so Bennett's saying the exercises are very emotional. I was feeling extreme sadness. In a way, I felt like I was letting go of something I haven't wanted to let go of. Oof, my mother committed suicide 7 years ago, and even though it's painful to think about, I think I lost the rest of that thread. What's that?
Forgiving her for taking her life was, felt like I was letting go of her.
So then the rest of it is forgiving her for taking her life felt like I was letting go of her. So Bennett, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. I have a few friends whose one friend has his mother and his brother committed suicide within a year of each other, and I watched him as he went through a big part of his healing process. And so while I have no idea what that feels like firsthand, I have seen people moving through similar things, and I just want to say how very, very sorry I am for your loss. And I can only speculate and imagine the cocktail of feelings of rage and guilt and anger and sadness and forlornness, and I mean, it's just, that's a lot. And so I'm very, very sorry. And I understand what you're saying, that if you forgive her, then somehow that means that you're letting go of her. But the reality is she's not in her body anymore, right? She's not on this physical plane anymore. And so you trying to hold on to something or someone who isn't here, I think is taking energy away from you and what you're meant to do on this planet and what you're meant to do in your big mission in your life. And the beautiful thing about her not being in her body anymore is that you can access her, you can connect with her, you can even talk to her or listen for how she might be communicating into you. And it's just like, if my best friend lives in Florida and I live here, I could think about her, even if we're not in the same room, I could think about her, I could imagine what she's doing. And similarly, just because someone isn't locatable in their body, we can still think about them and bring them into our awareness. There was something else I wanted to say. I don't remember right now, but if I remember, I will. I'll comment on there. But thank you for sharing that, Bennett.
Jennifer wants to forgive herself, but imagining herself young and old, she sees someone bad, and that's hard.
Someone bad?
Yes, someone still bad. Any suggestions on how to shift that to help the forgiveness?
Okay, so Jennifer's saying she's trying to forgive herself, but when she sees herself as young and old, she sees someone bad, and so she's wondering how to help with the forgiveness. And Jennifer, can you just tell me a little bit more? Like, what do you mean when you say you see someone bad? I just want to understand what you mean. Okay, and in the meantime, I'll just take a few more. So Mary Hilla is saying, I forgave my mom last night, who also passed away last year, and it felt amazing. Bravo, Mary. That's brave work. Yeah, Jennifer, just let me know what you mean when you say very bad. I see your comment now. Okay, Mike's saying, I like your approach to forgiveness. There's someone who did some really bad things to me and continues to do them to others. It's very difficult to forgive. I'm trying. So, Mike, if you listen to that audio, if you download it, which if you haven't, it's bit.ly/Ziva-forgiveness. And in there, I really harp on the fact that forgiveness is not something that we do for someone else. It's something that we do for ourselves. And it does not mean that we're condoning their behavior. And I would say that if you are privy to knowledge that someone is acting in an abusive way to someone else, and if there's anything you can do to prevent it, I would encourage you to take action on that if it's something that you feel is safe for you. But if you've taken all the action that you feel like you can take, then again, it doesn't even mean that they deserve it. Really, selfishly, we do this thing for ourselves. Oh, and then this, Bennett, this is what I was going to say to you as well, so thanks, Mike, for triggering this, is that what I really believe, or what I choose to believe, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but what I choose to believe is that everyone is doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. I'm going to say that again. Everyone is doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. Yes, we make mistakes sometimes, but if we really truly understood the full past, present, and future, then forgiveness would be irrelevant. If we understood that where everyone's coming from, and if we understood what lessons the transgression was teaching us, and if we knew how this story was going to play out long term, we'd have nothing to forgive, because we would see that it's all working out exactly perfectly and meant. And so the reality is that we're not divine. We don't have the whole story. We're not omnipotent. And so forgiveness is a very powerful and human tool. But good job for diving in, even though it's tough work. Okay, good. I'll take a few more comments, and then we will start to, and then we're going to start to wrap it up. So, okay. So Sandra's saying, I chose to forgive the men who have sexually harassed me and other women throughout our lives, and see them as coming to grips with their transgressions and looking at ways they can now bring change to the... Do you see the rest of that?
Yes, to the world in this regard.
To the world, okay. Yeah, so this is really relevant. It's very time sensitive. I mean, I don't know about you, but I, for one, I was honestly surprised at how many of my friends and family members, shared a story during the Me Too campaign. And I think that when you finally realize the magnitude of something, when you realize just how many people have been impacted, then it's not something that you can ignore anymore. And I think a similar phenomenon happened, in the civil rights movement. It's like we sort of knew that racism, I wasn't alive then, but we knew that racism was a thing. We knew that it was existing out there somewhere. But then what changed is television sets. Right? And my friend Jared Weiss was sharing this. We did a Me Too event here in the city, and Jared was sharing that, it was actually televisions coming into people's homes and people actually getting to see in their living rooms 6-year-old black girls getting hosed down with 15 to 20 pounds of water pressure from fire hoses, people being attacked by dogs for silently and peacefully protesting. When you see that, that's not something that you can ignore anymore. And as painful as I'm sure that it was to wake up to that level of racism, it inspired action, it inspired change. And obviously we have work to do, because there's still an extraordinary amount of separateness happening in the world and in our country. But I think something similar is happening right now with the Me Too campaign. Because it's been thrown in our face quite literally. You can't go on social media or even the news right now without hearing about the Me Too campaign, different acts of sexual abuse being committed, people being fired from their jobs. And while this is painful, obviously, yes, to experience that sexual assault, but also to have someone that you love, someone that you respect, to be outed or fired from their job because they have been accused of or convicted of inappropriate sexual behavior. And so basically, as these things are being brought into the light, while it is painful, while it hurts, this is a necessary part of the healing. If you want to clean out a wound, you have to pour the peroxide in, you have to pour the alcohol in, and that hurts. But if you don't do it, it gets infected, right? And I think what we try to do so much in the West, certainly, but maybe all over the world, is that we try to numb the pain. We try to pretend that it's not there. We try to anesthetize ourselves with alcohol, with sugar, with sleeping pills, with coffee, with pot, with social media. We do anything we can not to feel, with antidepressants, anti-anxiety. I recently learned that 44% of American adult women are on either anti-anxiety or antidepressants. 44%. And that's not a judgment if you're on those things, but I do think that in and of itself is a bit of a wake-up call. And so while I know that this forgiveness exercise itself and what's happening on the bigger scale of Me Too campaign is painful and perhaps is reopening old wounds for people, I think that this is a very necessary part of the healing, because you cannot change something that you don't know is there. And in order to change something, you must first accept that it is happening. And I think that right now we're being forced to accept. And I've actually been quite inspired by the bravery of people who have been speaking out. I've been inspired by the bravery of the companies who have sometimes fired people who make them a lot of money. And I'm fascinated to see what's next. I'm fascinated to see what the next chapter is in this story. Perhaps people will start to take responsibility before they even become accused. Perhaps we'll start to have more intelligent conversations with young people, both men and women, about enthusiastic consent. Perhaps we'll stop slut-shaming women for liking sex so that we can train young boys to know that when they're interacting with a woman, it's possible to have something like enthusiastic consent. But if we continue to slut-shame women for liking sex, then if someone says yes enthusiastically, then it seems like, well, they're a slut, they're a whore, that's not someone that I want. And so I think that this sexual abuse is a very complex issue, but I think that training kids, young adults, as they're moving into their sexual prime or their sexual awakening, that sex is not bad, it's not dirty, it's not from the devil, it's a natural part of life. But if we teach people how to communicate about it and we don't repress it, I think that that's a big step in the right direction. And I actually had, and we'll move on from this topic, but I had the honor of speaking at an event like a week or two ago with Gloria Steinem. And if you don't know Gloria Steinem, please look her up. She's a huge trailblazer in the American feminism movement. She has a book right now called My Life on the Road. And she used to be an editor of a magazine, and someone asked her, and he said, if you were still the editor-in-chief of Miss Magazine, what would the headline be about the whole Me Too campaign? And she said the headline would be, it's about power, it's not about sex. And I thought that was such an interesting point. It's about power, it's not about sex. And she said if we continue to think that this sexual assault conversation is about sex, then it seems immutable. It seems like it's impossible to change. But if you realize that it's actually about power, then we can change it, because power is changing all the time. And the point that she used to prove this is that oftentimes heterosexual, homophobic men will sexually abuse other men in jails if there's no one else around. And so it's not about even what their sexual preference is, it's about an abuse of power. It's about taking out a power position on someone who is weaker than them. And so I think that it's a complex conversation, but there's a lot of things we can do. We can hold people accountable, but we can also give, especially young women, tools to feel empowered, tools to know that their bodies are their own, and that consent is their own. So that is my diatribe about that. Okay. Good. Okay, Adrian's saying, will this video remain on the Facebook? I have to go. Yes, the cool thing about Facebook Lives is that they stick around even after we are live.
Does it take a certain level of self-confidence and self-love to forgive others?
Okay, so Kelly's asking, does it take a certain level of self-confidence and self-love to forgive others? I don't think so. I don't think it matters how much you love yourself or how confident you are of yourself. I think that you could choose to forgive someone regardless of where you are on that scale. And I actually think that you going through the hard work of forgiving someone may in fact increase your self-love and increase your self-confidence. Yeah, thanks for asking that. All right, friends. So, Deborah's saying, in Judaism we have Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. We ask for forgiveness from others, from God, and forgive those who have hurt us. While I've always practiced and participated in this, I have found it much
easier to ask for forgiveness than to experience forgiving others. Outwardly, I can do it, but inwardly.
Hold on. I've found it much easier to ask for forgiveness than forgive others.
I fully believe in the concept that forgiveness is for ourselves, not for others. But
I believe in the concept that forgiveness is for ourselves, not for others.
But I've always found it difficult to untangle the hurt and anger.
But I found it difficult to untangle the hurt and anger.
I have a very hard time letting go.
Yeah, I have a very hard time letting go. So I hear you, Deb. This is not easy work. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And so I would recommend giving yourself a challenge and just setting aside. I know you're already a meditator. And so I would set aside, 15 extra minutes every day. I wouldn't do it twice a day. Just do this one time a day for the next 30 days. Give yourself a 30-day forgiveness challenge and write down where you are right now today. If you had to rate how hard it is for you to let go of a transgression on a scale of 1 to 10, write that down. When you think about people who have harmed you, when you think about how angry it makes you, write that down on a scale of 1 to 10. And then do this 30-day forgiveness challenge. You could do it on multiple people or the same person, and then check back in 30 days and see if it gets easier for you. Because it's like anything, the concept is lovely. The concept of there's only one thing and we're all it is lovely. The idea of forgiving someone is delightful. Actually doing the work is effing hard. And that is what separates the masters from the people who are still suffering, right? It's, are they doing the work or not? And so I really want to applaud the work that you've done so far. I know that you are in the throes right now of really cleaning house and up-leveling. So really celebrate how far you've come. And I think it'd be fun to set a 30-day forgiveness challenge for yourself. All right, friends. Thank you so, so much for joining me for this time. I really appreciate your energy, your time, your attention. Thank you for doing the love bomb with me. I felt like I could feel all that love coming at me, and I was sending you guys so much love. If you haven't gotten that forgiveness audio, the link is in the comments below, but I highly recommend you download that, take 15 minutes for yourself, and then we're gonna talk about how to use that specifically to forgive yourself next Thursday at 2 p.m. And if you wanna share this, feel free to share it far and wide, invite people to join our Ziva tribe. Again, we wanna get to 5,000 members by the end of the year, and I think at the rate we're on, we're gonna blow that goal out of the water. So thank you so much. I hope you had a beautiful Thanksgiving if you're here in America, and I will see you soon. Bye, friends.